Welcome to the Cal Chat. This is where we talk about our favorite Al-Anon and Alateen literature and how it's improved our lives. And this is actually part 2 of 2. It's a continuation of an interview with Michael from episode 1. Hope you enjoy.
So, Michael, let's talk now about your favorite outreach piece of literature.
It's actually multiple pieces, but it's the Newcomer's Welcome Packet.
Oh, okay.
Each of the pieces in it have a lot of wisdom, even for those of us who have been around for a while.
Now, I know there's different types of packets. There's kind of a general one. There's also a men's newcomer packet. Have you ever had a chance to see that one?
One of the groups I attend has it, and I didn't even know it existed until I happened to see it in the rack. The one that I was speaking about is the general one. And I'm going to sit down and read through the one for men because I didn't realize that there was such a thing. And recently I attended a men's meeting somewhere else, and it was very powerful to be in a room full of men in recovery at the same time, and not an experience I've had before. And I'm really glad I went.
Now, when you use this for outreach purposes, are you the one kind of in the meeting that hands out the newcomer packets?
You know, it's always a higher power thing for me, Pat. I mean, there's moments when I just, I will jump up and go over and grab one or more packets, depending on how many newcomers there are. And other times, it's just that once they've been given to people and we're sharing, sometimes I'll share about my first meeting and someone giving me a newcomer's packet and what it meant to me.
So when you first came in, were you given one at your very first meeting?
Yes. In fact, I walked in, and it was a room full of women. I was the only guy. Mm-hmm. So my first question was, is this a closed meeting? And they all started laughing. And they said, no, dear, you're welcome. And then I found out that one of their most beloved members had passed away a number of years before I walked in, and they had a whole bunch of sayings that this fellow offered in his recovery that they referred to as with his name and ism on the end of his name. I realized I was more welcome than I realized, and the packet was physical, but the welcome from the group was spiritual, and then, of course, when I went home and read the packet, that was a very spiritual experience for me. Ooh. It's affirming. It lets you know you're in the right place if that's exactly what you thought might happen, and it was a big affirmation, and I started reading through things. And, do you mind if I offer 2 of my favorites from the general packet?
Not at all. Go ahead.
There's the Just for Today bookmark, mm-hmm. which I regard as a source of all kinds of spiritual wisdom and recovery. And I have, at different times on different days, chosen one of the paragraphs on it just as a guide for the day. And mm-hmm. it's always been a favorite of mine. I like the little leaflet, too. But the bookmark is great because I have it in most of my books. So I always have it handy, and it has lots of guidance about a way that you can do your day that's different from other days. And at the bottom of one side, there's a passage about being very agreeable and friendly. And it even talks about how we can dress and moderate our voice and offer really good manners to those around us. It's a way of being our recovery that other people witness. And, it's what a lot of us say about how we choose a sponsor is we see something in that other person about the way they handle themselves. And we say, I want that. That's what I want to be able to do. So this reminds me of that.
And then you mentioned there was another piece in the newcomers package.
Yes. It's always hard to pick favorites, but it's fun to do that for this show. Al-Anon Spoken Here. I think that's a remarkable guide to all kinds of questions about how we conduct ourselves in meetings. And what is it that happens in meetings, and sponsorship is touched on, and anonymity and telephone sharing and so many other topics. It's very helpful before I go to my second meeting to have read that. And then it's helpful throughout the rest of my time. I'm very grateful for it.
I was bringing up the men's newcomer packet. It, too, was something that I didn't realize was available. And we have newcomer packets for parents, and then another one, adult children of alcoholics packet that's specifically for adult children. And I remember thinking, I'm a girl. I don't need to read the literature for men. I thought that would be silly. But I said, okay, I'm going to read all the literature. I committed to reading all the literature. And when I did, I saw that the pamphlet Al-Anon is for Men, which is the first one in that men's packet, applied to me. I was, the one in my household that was trying to hold everything down and, the major breadwinner in the family, and I thought I was responsible for everything. And it didn't matter that it was, talking about men in this pamphlet because it was speaking to me. And I was blown away. And then I read Does She Drink Too Much? And that was another pamphlet that I could just substitute, the word he for she, and it still applied to me as well. And I was surprised that I had closed myself off to this other literature that was still very good. And I would have missed it if I would have just kept on believing that that's not for me because that's for men only, and, like I can't go there. And I'm not a parent, but I read the stuff on the literature for parents, and, just once you get into all the literature, there's nuggets in there that I just related to, and I'm very glad I got into all the little different bits, and I encourage others to do so as well.
I love doing this show. I learn so much from you every time I talk with you.
I was going to say, we'll have to talk again once you've read through the men literature, the literature for men.
Yeah.
Get your thoughts on that. So, but we'll just wrap up here. I think this last section is just what I call last words. This is any final thoughts you want to impart to the audience. This is your platform.
Well, it's kind of overwhelming to just suddenly think, what could I share at this point? And I guess the best thing I can think of right at the moment is I have more gratitude in my life than I have ever had in my 70 years. It saturates every day of my life. And I've even learned to be grateful for challenging moments, because I realize that those are just as much a love letter from my higher power as anything else that might seem to be more affirming. Sometimes there are challenging moments. And the literature and the program have combined to help me see, and service has become such a big part of my recovery. I thought when I turned 70, growth was over, but it ain't. It's like I'm going through a whole renaissance in my life of having a new life that's really open and that is full of wonderful surprises. And even the challenges are okay because I've got a higher power who's in charge, and I've got guidance galore. So I'm very grateful for our literature, and thanks for having me, Pat.
Yeah, thank you for being part of the show. And as soon as you said gratitude, I thought, the nice thing about gratitude is you can never have too much.
Yes.
You never, that's too much gratitude for me. No, I never find myself saying that.
Yeah.
To me, it's a lot like love,
Yes.
Someone once said it refills itself.
Yep. Yep. I love that. And the best way we can have it is to keep giving it away. Yes.
See, those are great last words. Oh, gosh. Fantastic. Well, again, Michael, thank you for joining the show, and I look forward to talking to you again someday. And we'll do another episode down the line.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael.
You bet, Pat. Have a wonderful day.
Well, that concludes our first episode of Cal Chat. Thanks for listening. Happy reading.